Welcome back, Heat Seekers. It's your Week 13 wide receiver tiers. We're going to get you some wins this weekend as you get ready for the playoffs. In this tier, just want to point out, Deebo may or may not play. He's got the groin injury. It sounded like last we had heard there could be a couple of weeks that he misses, or maybe none at all. So you got to keep an eye on the injury report. We are recording Tuesday afternoon. We don't know the details yet. Otherwise, yeah, these are all wide receiver ones. Anything else, Kraig?
No, that's all I got.
Much of the same. You got a PPR guy who gets a ton of targets, may not get you a touchdown, but he'll get you a ton of catches. Thielen going against, I think he's against Detroit this week, so that should be a juicy matchup for him. And then the usual suspects. What do you think about Jaylen Waddle? I was surprised that he got up this high, but I know that we all are pretty high on him as of late. How do you feel about the rookie?
Yeah, in PPR formats, he's been shown he has that ceiling to be able to get there. And they're going against the Giants, who are, I know they won last week, but it wasn't really an exciting or a quality win. I'd say a win's a win, of course. But they're still not doing well, and that Miami team offense, defense is starting to come together. They're starting to put it together down there how people had felt about them preseason. So I think this is a great spot for them to continue it. And Waddle really does appear, whether we have Devante Parker back or not, he appears to be the guy right now. So I think it's worthy of it.
It's hard not to think any of these guys couldn't be a wide receiver one. We're starting to see where injuries could affect some of these rankings a little bit more. DeAndre still hurt. Got to keep an eye on that. I know he's been questionable, but just hasn't been playing. If Deebo's out, I have no problem thinking he's a wide receiver one. He probably even bumps up in the top 6 wide receiver territory just because of the pure amount of targets that would be available, or maybe getting him involved in the running back type thing like Deebo's been doing. Who knows? What do you think about this wide receiver one tier? Is there anyone that concerns you here?
Injuries, of course, like you said, Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins are concerns. Other than that, as far as guys that we think have that potential upside, no, these guys are the guys that you're thinking about as wide receiver ones if you're having wide receiver one rankings outside of the people that we have here. Again, aside from those on bye and anyone injured. CeeDee Lamb, if Amari Cooper doesn't play and he's sounding iffy here, again, he's going to be the main guy in Dallas going against Marshawn Lattimore, who really isn't a shutdown guy that we've seen in years past. But he's still a high-quality top-end cornerback. So it'll be a tougher matchup for CD. And certainly sounds from Jerry Jones that they want to be running the ball, which I find interesting with how well the Saints have defended their run this year. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of guys we like here. It's just, man, it's one of those seasons. DK Metcalf, what do you have? 1 catch against Washington on Monday night, and Lockett had 3 for 96 yards or something. It's been weird. Sometimes you got to look at these offenses and what's going on. It isn't working for Seattle right now. So I'm more wary of those guys than we previously probably would have been.
Yeah, and it's hard because you would have thought with how Washington's defense has been and Russ is back and everything, you're like, okay, this is set up for a good game for these receivers. Just hasn't been as trustworthy. So who are our wide receiver 2s?
And Amari returned to the team, but McCarthy noted that he's not feeling the best, and if he doesn't practice tomorrow, when did this come? It was an hour ago. So if he doesn't practice tomorrow, Wednesday, they don't think he's playing.
Well, yeah, because they're Thursday night this week, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I would err on the side of caution. If you're one of those people that set your lineups earlier in the week, if you set it on Wednesday during the day or Wednesday morning, I would just assume he's not going to play. And if he is, he's not 100%. Better safe than sorry. If he does play, guys play hurt, play sick all the time, and can produce. That is what it is. The rest of this wide receiver 2 tiers is not really surprising. Russell Gage, though he was a preseason darling, somebody we thought would break out and have a really nice season, he took a little time. Injury obviously caused that, but he's been productive. Not spectacular, but productive. So wide receiver 2 feels good here. I feel better about Kendrick Bourne than I do OBJ or Shepard at this point, probably. He's been the bigger play guy, but it's hard to trust kind of the back end of this wide receiver 2 group. What are you thinking about this group?
Yeah, so for Odell and Van Jefferson, they're going against Jacksonville this week, and Jacksonville's been pretty good actually against quarterbacks. They've allowed, I think, like 1 passing touchdown on average like the past 5 weeks or something like that. And their defense is a lot better than their offenses, which doesn't say a whole lot. But I think it is going to be harder, especially with knowing that Darrell Henderson is banged up. Sony Michel, sorry, Brad, is no Darrell Henderson at this point, and I think they're going to be able to tee off even more on the passing game. Yeah, those guys are tough. If you're looking at a situation like Rashod Bateman here, which Lamar are you going to get? We haven't seen that Lamar that we saw this past week very often, so we're probably not going to see that again. I don't think, and Pittsburgh is falling apart at the seams just with how the team is doing. So I like Bateman here. Man, Russell Gage, I don't trust Matt Ryan going against Tampa Bay. That Tampa Bay secondary has been better. They've gotten people healthy here. It's not that sort of middle of the season ugly secondary that we saw. So There are some question marks here. Even Elijah Moore, who the dynasty community was in love with preseason and started showing up here recently, didn't have a great week last week with Zach Wilson, and they're going against Philly. Philly does not allow a lot of points to wide receivers this year, so I think it's another one of those matchups where caution maybe need to be used when just throwing him into a lineup like people were doing last year. Like people were doing last week, thinking,
Right.
oh, he's been producing. Just going to be the same thing it was with Zach Wilson and brought all the ships down, so to speak, in the Bay.
Absolutely. Looking at this tier, this is massive. There's a lot going on here. Who do you feel safest with?
This and the next tier are really just, you're getting into the dregs of the season. 4 teams on bye makes it tough for you trying to compete for a playoff spot, hopefully, or secure that bye or whatever, and having to count. A lot of teams are going to have to count on guys within here, and it's just difficult. We hit, I think, Judy in the tier up above, but Judy, Patrick, and Sutton are really sort of just in a grouping together, and going against Kansas City, they are probably going to have to throw the ball more. Kansas City's defense has been doing better, especially once they got Ingram to play on that other side of the defensive end and move Chris Jones back inside where he's more effective. That whole front is just working a lot better. So I do think they're going to have to throw more, but which out of the 3 is it going to be? Sutton just hasn't been getting targets since Judy got back. The 3, if you want to call them top wide receivers for the Lions there in the third row of the flex tier, do you really trust any of them? Minnesota is a decent matchup as far as giving up points to wide receivers. I guess out of those, I would trust Josh Reynolds. He's looked better this year and in prior years. There's a reason he signed that contract to Tennessee, and they cut him because he wasn't doing what they wanted, wasn't healthy there. But he showed well for like a second game in Detroit, and they're going to have to throw the ball to someone besides TJ Hawkinson and the running backs, which maybe it's DeAndre Swift if he's healthy. There's just a whole lot of mess going on in here. And a name like Deshaun Jackson, yeah, he's the second wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. If he isn't catching a couple deep balls in the game, he's probably not getting you anything. So it's just hard to trust this group.
It's a dangerous group to trust. If you were looking for a Lions receiver, I'd probably lean Josh Reynolds just because of the history. And I feel like he can be that big play, deep threat type guy. Monroe can be underneath if you want some potential PPR value. I'm not starting Tony. If obviously keep an eye on the injury report. Him and Kenny Galladay worry me. Matchup and injury related. Same with Allen Robinson. It's an interesting group because there is quite a bit of boom and bust potential, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Sleepers, it's the breaking case emergency group. If you're dealing with injuries with buys, some of these guys give you something. Some of these guys don't give you anything. Anything you want to add to this grouping of misfit toys?
If Amari Cooper does not play, I think Cedric Wilson is a nice play out of this group. He has shown himself to be a worthy wide receiver 3. So him, Deontay Harris as well. He's had 5, 5, 4, 8, 7 target for like the past 5 weeks. He's getting targeted. He's a guy that's able to get you yards on that. He hasn't done a whole lot with it lately. And going to Taysom Hill, it'll be interesting to see, especially some Alvin Kamara back this week. There's a lot of moving parts in that New Orleans offense, but he's still been getting targeted, which is important out of this group. If Kyler Murray is back, I don't mind taking a chance on A.J. Green or Rondale Moore because we know that offense has the ability to explode, and they're going to want to keep that number 1 seed heading into the playoffs to get that bye. They don't want to fall to that number 2 spot. Yeah, that's really it for the most part out of guys that I would feel comfortable having to start. Anyone else stick out to you?
No, not particularly. In the sleeper category, this is the break the glass in case of emergency group. If you need anything, as always, let us know, and we'll see you later.